I also want to take a look quickly at some of these big tech names. You guys, the NASDAQ was in a correction territory, and all of that is sort of rebounding here today. Most of the companies within Mag 7 green on the screen. And I'm pleased to say that that's where we can go with Kingsview Wealth Management CIO and Fox News contributor, Scott Martin. Great to have you here with us today. What do you make about Mag 7? Morgan Stanley saying if it's in a correction and there's no recession, this is a good buying opportunity. Do you agree?
I love the comment, the if there's no recession, which I think they've been calling for, random people have been calling for on the markets for, what, 2 years now, Taylor? So, sure, if there's no recession, stocks are going to be great. How about that analysis? Look, I think that the recession fears are overblown, typically as usual. I mean, usually when it's the recession that everybody expects to be coming, including my grandmother and my mom and dad and everybody, that's the recession that never comes. So I believe that the more we hear about this fear, the more we hear about people getting out of the markets and the yen carry trade unwinding and geopolitical issues affecting the stock market, I think, Taylor, that's a buying opportunity for some of these stocks because you pointed out, and effectively in the intro there with Intel and CrowdStrike and Delta and all these other stocks, NVIDIA, Eli Lilly, these are all rebounding big because you got some of the weak hands out on Monday and Tuesday, and now the strong hands are coming in, and that's where our cash is going as well.
So, Scott, does this just have to do, or the sell-off that we saw, rather, have to do with the fact that stocks were just, soaring day after day after day, and they needed a pullback, and investors understood that, and some of them wanted to take profits? Or are there more underlying fears at work here, fears of a recession? Because Jamie Dimon says the chances of a recession were the same as they were before, about 40%. So, here we are. What do you think?
So it's a coin flip, I guess, and I call him Jamie Dimon too because it's kind of a dimey analysis, though. I mean, this guy's kind of a little bit of I guess, an alarmist at times. You have Jamie Dimon talking about the tempest in a teapot and all those things back in the day, all these recessions that were coming, all the problems at the banks that were happening, not at J.P. Morgan, of course, but all these other banks, Jackie on the street, and those never happened either. So I believe the more we hear Jamie Dimon say that there's bad things ahead, the more I'm confident that there's not. And the more that other folks and other analysis come out, whether it's Morgan Stanley and some of these other big banks on Wall Street and say, okay, we're hunkering down, we're not going to lend money and so forth, and risk appetite is drying up, that's when you need to get in the market because these weak hands fall out as they did on Monday morning when there's a little bit of volatility and folks got all nervous and got out of this market, and look at what they've missed in the last 3 days.
All right, Scott, there might have been some, you call them weak hands folks out there, maybe some weak hands folks in our audience who got a little nervous on Monday. They might get nervous again in the coming days if we get bad economic data. What's your advice to them?
Nervousness is part of investing, isn't it, Brian? And I'll tell you, and not to use weak hands as a bad word, I mean, that's something that is part of investing. I got nervous too on Monday a little bit, but you've got to take those emotions and use them to your advantage because usually those emotions are reactions, not preparation. And so, frankly, if you got out of the market on Monday because of what happened, I mean, Bitcoin was down about 20%, by the way, on the market open on Monday, and we were throwing money into it for our clients because that was a crazy reaction and people flipping out and just throwing the baby, the bathwater, and the bathtub out. My point is, if you're in the markets and you get volatility like you had on Monday where everybody was talking about the sky falling again, which we've heard over and over again in the last few years since COVID started, you probably shouldn't be in stocks anyway and should probably be more conservative because these days are going to come again, I promise you.
Well, Scott Martin, it's always great to have you on days like today as well. You get nervous. If you stay in the market, you're able to catch the last few days of this rally. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
See ya.
He's kind of an eternal optimist because he's a Vikings fan anyway.
Okay.
They got to be that way.
Don't come with me at my Niners.
He knows that. He knows that. Good stuff, Scott. All right.